Internet! Hello and welcome to Koi Cubed. It is Tuesday. We are back on Tuesdays. I'm very excited to see you guys here today. This is season 2 of Koi Cubed, episode 2. We're in the new space. I hope you guys have had a great week. It has been a surprisingly dense news week. If you guys don't listen to KoiCast, there's a bunch of stuff over on KoiCast that drops tomorrow. This week's been crazy. So let's dive into it over here. I want to kick this off by talking about the insane stuff going on over at DC. DC has effectively, from the reports we're hearing, laid off a third of their staff. Now, this is a staggering amount of people. This is a staggering amount of lives affected, and it's very concerning, and we kind of, thought this might happen once the AT&T merger happened. We then got more evidence of this happening with Warner Brothers, and once Warner Media announced the DC universe, I thought it was actually going to go the other direction. I thought that DC had a brilliant app with their comic book, their use of comic books in an app that's a video-based app that has also a show tied together, like all of that on paper seems brilliant. I really thought that was the future. So I thought DC had taken a huge leap ahead, and I thought it kind of counteracted the AT&T Time Warner side of things. I was very worried for comic books when it became a big conglomerate with Time Warner and AT&T. But it looks like that is what came to pass after all with this roughly 30% layoffs. Now, the editor-in-chief was part of that, Bob Harris, who's a great guy. A lot of staff that I had met that just loved comics so much aren't at DC anymore. A big bummer for me, the editor in charge of DC's Black Label was let go. Black Label, I think, is one of the most consistent imprints in the history of comic books. Like, not to be hyperbolic, it's up there with Vertigo for me, and it kind of took over Vertigo, so it had to be very high praise. Very good for anything for... DC's Black Label was so consistent that I would recommend anyone that doesn't know comic books just sight unseen pick up a Black Label book, and I hadn't felt that way about a comic since Vertigo. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's a very consistent run. It's a real shame. They put out a lot of incredible work. I'm bummed. So I really thought that was going to be what the DC Universe became. But when DC Daily got canceled earlier, that felt like the writing on the wall for a lot of things, but I didn't think it would translate this big to the entire publishing leg. Now, DC, their building itself in Burbank is fascinating because it is comic books, it is actual merch, it is a filming location, it is a giant skyscraper of comic books. Whenever I was there, it felt like Willy Wonka without the murder. It was a very cool place, and it was super positive and cheery, and it was always an honor to be in there. And they had board meetings like you'd see in the Daily Bugle, but it was about comic books. Like you'd see people running around and comics in print and the art and everything everywhere. It was just such a great creative place for comic books. So it is a shame this has happened to so many incredible folks over at DC. COVID is impacting everything in a terrifying way. I don't know what this is going to mean for comics long term. I know they're looking at shifting over to their young adult line is going to get bolstered, I believe. I know they're teaming up with Scholastic. They have this 2-year plan that's going around. There's a bunch of articles going around, but this is all brand new, so I feel like a decent amount of it's conjecture. But it looks like they're leaning into their young adult brand through Scholastic, which is a great money outlet. It's a great stream of revenue, but it doesn't feel like they're really looking at the direct market. And the direct market would be, you or I, or comic book stores and those things. They're leaning into Walmart. They're leaning into the masses. And I get that comic books have to go mainstream to survive to a point, but it's a real bummer if we lose a lot of titles, which I think we might. We kind of have to with a third of the staff laid off. So that's a lot. I'm really bummed. I have a lot of love for DC. I have a lot of love for people that got let go, and it's been a really rough year for a lot of people. So all of my well wishes and all of my love to everyone at DC, past, present, and future. I really hope things can turn around. I hope we get out of this and everything's for the better. But there's a lot of great stuff coming out of DC, and keep supporting comic books, keep supporting people you care about, keep supporting artists, and keep supporting art. So yeah, real bummer this week for DC. I was crushed to hear it. In the world of other sad comic book news, but also seemingly inevitable, New York Comic Con has officially been canceled in person. It took until yesterday, early this morning, for New York Comic Con to officially not be happening in October. The Javits Center will be empty. There is no comic book con happening in October. Now, there's a bunch of different articles. Some of them say New York Comic Con canceled. Some of them say New York Comic Con transitions to virtual. Why I think that is the legality of it all. I really think it's going to be an interesting time with all the lawsuits that come out of COVID, with insurance policies, with returning of tickets. I don't know what the legal answer to there is no New York Comic Con in October is. I think they have to call it canceled for insurance purposes. There will be a digital New York Comic Con in October. I should say there will be a digital Comic Con in October from the same company. Obviously it's not New York because it takes place anywhere. It's digital. But that said, I'm really curious what that looks like after San Diego Comic Con did what they did. I know a lot of people had trouble with San Diego Comic Con. I know they pre-filmed a lot of their stuff. I know it didn't have that feeling of community in quite the same way. So I know they're looking to change that up. Also, the exclusivity of Comic Con is vital. So I think they've learned from the San Diego mistakes, and they're going forward with a Stars panel, which is going to feature American Gods. CBS All Access is going to be there with Star Trek. We've got DreamWorks, Hulu, FX, and tons more programming to be announced leading up to the event. Now, one, I think this is really smart to have exclusivity. That's what people like about Comic-Con. Two, I really think they should work on what items are for sale. I wanted to buy art. I wanted to go to SanDiegoComicCon.com and then it linked me to Tumblr or whatever and to buy art from comic artists. I want an artist alley. I would love if they just had a virtual artist alley or anything like that. And it just doesn't feel like Comic-Con unless there's the comic books, the arts, the vendors, all those things. It's just not the same. So these presentations need to be much more interactive. I think the YouTube Live is an important asset. I think you need to be able to talk to people. I know there's been some copyright infringement stuff with San Diego. So if San Diego Comic-Con can't get approval through YouTube, no one can. So I'm really hoping New York Comic-Con is able to shift, learn some of the mistakes that were made in July. They've got until October. They can build up a different infrastructure. I think there's a lot of opportunity for New York Comic-Con to kind of be the answer to what happened with San Diego. So I'd say they need to build up the community. They need to work on making sure there's an artist alley. They need to work on there being exclusives. There needs to be a lot of interactivity amongst the live chat. I'd say get a Q&A going where people in the live chat can ask questions to the panel. There's a lot of opportunity here, and I really think we can feel better about digital cons if they go forward and handle this right from the jump. Go correctly into October and make this better. Now, I'm going to get into the Streamlabs in just a moment. I just saw someone pop up, which I very much appreciate. I'm going to get to the Streamlabs. But first, I wanted to announce to you guys first, you might have seen it on my Twitter, a con that does handle digital well, a con that does handle how to do this all online at a safe distance, because they've been doing digital for 3 years running. This is not a con that transitioned digitally. It is MainFrame Comic Con, who do online cons for a living. Now, MainFrame Comic Con has had huge guests in the past, and this year is no different. And I, ya boy, the Koi Pond is going to MainFrame Comic Con. We are sitting down. I've got 5 panels. I think just 5, maybe more by the time it gets to it. But right now we got 5 panels, and this company is incredibly well organized. They've been very, very good at communicating. They've been very good at keeping me up to date with what's going on. Their site looks great. Check out MainFrameComicCon.com. I love the panelists they've assembled. I love the guests they've assembled. You can tell they're actually comic fans. There's tons of exclusive Q&As. There's lots of panels. There's 4 different panel rooms going simultaneously Saturday and Sunday, and over 150 folks in the comic industry are being represented. Now, what I'm really excited about is I finally, after many, many years of singing his praises, get to sit down professionally with Mr. Tom King. I've talked to Tom King at Comic Cons, but we've never done a panel together. We are kicking off MainFrame Comic Con with Tom King. That's right, 9 a.m. on Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, noon Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. here. I'm thinking I have to get up at noon, that's why 9 a.m. stuck in my head. 9 a.m. West Coast, noon East Coast, me and Tom King sitting down. We're going to talk Mr. Miracle, we're going to talk Batman, we're going to talk the new Strange Adventures book, which is blowing my mind, we're going to talk Vision, we're going to talk all sorts of stuff. You guys know how big of a Tom King fan I am. I am so excited. Saturday, bright and early, me and Tom King sitting down, talking comics, MainFrameComicCon.com. Best of all, it's completely free. Just log on to the website, it's going to be on that site, it's going to live there, and it's all actually live. I'm going to be participating at the same time as you're watching it. It is a stream, it is live, I'm excited. So kicking it off with Tom King, and then right after Tom King on Saturday, Jock and I are sitting down. Jock is a brilliant artist. He's worked for Marvel, he's worked for DC, he's worked for indie companies. His work on Batman is incredible. I love his Joker. He did a great Superman story. Jock is brilliant. I'm going to be sitting down with Jock right after I talk with Tom King, so that'll be about 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. West Coast time. Pacific, there's the word I was looking for. So those are my two on Saturday. On Sunday, I'm sitting down with Tom Taylor. Tom frickin' Taylor. You know how much Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man I've recommended? You know how much X-23 I've talked about? All new Wolverine, his new Suicide Squad run? Tom Taylor is a goddamn genius, and right now he's working on Deceased with Trevor Hairsine. So myself, Tom Taylor, and Trevor are sitting down, and we're talking Deceased, and we're going to talk Spider-Man, and we're going to talk all that other stuff I just mentioned, and we're going to do all that on Sunday. That kicks off at, I think, like 1 o'clock their time. 1 o'clock over there. And then after that, I'm sitting down with Mark Waid. Mark Waid wrote so much of my childhood. Mark Waid, the Age of Apocalypse, his stuff on Spider-Man, his Fantastic Four, his current Doctor Strange. I cannot wait to talk to Mark Waid. And then right after the Mark Waid panel, I'm going into the Humanoids panel, which is a new, it's not new, it's new to us, a new European publisher of comic books that is making its way into the American audience. So Mark Waid and I are having 2 panels together after Tom Taylor and Hairsine. So 5 panels coming at you Saturday and Sunday. It's an online con. I think it's going to go very well. They know exactly what they're doing. Tom King, Tom Taylor, Mark Waid, Trevor Hairsine, all sorts of good stuff. Guys, I'm very excited, so tune into that on Saturday and Sunday. Kick it off very, very early Saturday morning. All right, I saw a Streamlabs pop up. I'm going to check on that over here, and it looks like 3 o'clock is a good time for everybody. We've got almost 50 people in here, and that is a better average than we usually get for this time of day, so maybe we'll move the show to 3 instead of 2. I didn't want to interrupt the Schmodown. My lovely Shazam was talking in the Schmodown today, so I didn't want to interrupt backstage, so I moved the show to 3 o'clock. But let's see here. I have never seen the MX... I don't know where MX is from. Is that Mexico? Maybe this is Mexico. Braulio Valenzuela Mendoza has this to say. I don't speak Spanish. Let me see if it came through in English on the chat here, because, oh, it did not. Does anyone speak Spanish? If anyone speaks Spanish, please translate this for me so I can see what he's saying. I think he's saying, I have an idea, an incentive for something. The idea is that I reunite a group of exceptional people and talk something. I don't know, I took French. There is a Spanish super chat that I want to be able to answer. Oh, here we go. Trevor is saving the day. Trevor Reed. An idea came up called the Avengers Initiative. The idea was to find and gather a group of exceptional people and try to turn them into something more. Goddamn right, that's true, Braulio. Thank you very much for the super chat, and thank you very much for the speedy translation. I was like, I should have just babble-fished or throw it in Google Translate, but my brain was like, this is a live show. What am I doing? And I didn't think to throw it in Translate. My apologies. Thank you for doing that for me, Trevor. Odo Trevon. Cool name. I did not think to do that, so thank you very much. And yes, the Avengers are a special group of people, and I appreciate the super chat very, very much, y'all. All right, on to the next bit of news. Thank you once again, Braulio. I appreciate you very, very much. Over to post-con news is An American Pickle. I don't know if you guys have seen An American Pickle. I don't know if you guys are into very strange drama comedies with Seth Rogen involving many generations of strife, but this beginning of the review is going to be no spoilers, and then I'll get into spoilers near the end. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's an HBO Max original. It is probably the thing that made me want to join HBO Max more than anything, including the Snyder Cut. I'm excited for the Snyder Cut, but I was very, very excited for An American Pickle. This was one of my top 10 most anticipated movies of the year, back when we had tons and tons of movies coming out. So when I found out it was going to be available to stream, and I found out that this is the exact right tone for a streaming translation. It is a mid-budget film, low to mid-budget. It's a movie I would love to see with a crowd, but I didn't need to enjoy it. And it is a movie that will find a bigger audience through a cult following like a VOD release. So I think An American Pickle is the exact definition of the right movie to transition from theater to VOD. I don't want to see Mulan at home. I don't want to see Black Widow at home. I will not be supporting the $30 choice. I will not be supporting any blockbuster that makes a home video release. I will have to be spoiled, I'll have to share all about it, I won't be reviewing them. I'm not going to support the death of movie theaters. This is the opposite. This, I think, is a great opportunity for a movie that might have had a small release or a wide release that didn't go gangbusters to find an audience on HBO Max. So I'm very excited that I love this movie as much as I did. I've read a lot of uneven reviews, but a lot of the negative reviews are things that I enjoyed about the film. So, broad strokes, it is a very, very funny comedy with Seth Rogen, but even better than the comedy is the heart behind the film. Seth Rogen clearly was so invested in the script, so invested in the story. He plays two characters. He plays a man from 100 years ago, and he plays a man today. Now, what's interesting to me is the man he plays today, the modern Seth Rogen, is very much the archetype that Seth Rogen often plays. It's very much the, nerdy, pop culture aware, almost hipster guy. And he seemed to enjoy playing that role so much less because I think he wants to play the more interesting role like Herschel, which is the man from 100 years ago, his great-grandfather. And it was really interesting to see the proto-Seth Rogen, as played by Seth Rogen, versus the character actor Seth Rogen having a ball. So Herschel is a character that is much more difficult to play. He's nigh unlikable at points because of his sense of humor. He is much more interesting because he's a man out of time. And then there's the modern character who is most Seth Rogen characters, and I'm a huge fan of what Rogen does with writing and producing and how much he just reshaped this industry into a much nerdier place. So it was really cool to see him get to play a character he clearly invested so much in, had a blast doing. Now, I will say this movie is magic in that it goes completely different directions you never expected to. It takes hard rights and weird lefts all the time. And I think that's why a lot of people didn't enjoy the movie. I like that it meandered. I like that it took its time. I like that it didn't go with the color by numbers approach this movie could have been. This movie could have been exactly the trailer. This movie could have been a man is pickled, he wakes up, and hijinks ensue. But that's Futurama. We've already seen Futurama, we've had that. Instead, this movie deals with ancestral guilt. It deals with the ramifications of time. It deals with the evolution of humor. It deals with what family means to people. It deals with what it means to be an immigrant. It deals with commerce and what small business versus big business is. It deals with being a New Yorker. Like, this movie has so many layers beyond the broad strokes of the Futurama story it tells, and while it's telling the story, it takes a lot of risks. It is not a just simple digestible film. It is a dense movie full of a lot of heart. I keep using that, but I mean it. Like, this movie made me feel and emote and laugh. I think Seth Rogen's one of the great, great writers working today, and I think he's one of the great producers working today. I really, really appreciate the fact that he got to make something so unique. It was also directed by a friend of a friend, Brandon Trost. Brandon Trost is an incredible DP. He did This Is the End. He shot MacGruber. MacGruber getting a show, by the way, on Peacock. Hell yeah. And I think it's great to see him get to direct something this outlandish and have it have a home on HBO. So I think this is an absolutely perfect opportunity for strange films to get to be created. I think this is that mid-budget film people claim can't get made today. I think this is the exact kind of movie we want on streaming services. So thank you, HBO Max. Thank you, Brandon Trost. Thank you to the great Seth Rogen. I really, really am happy this movie exists. All right, that is my non-spoiler version. Spoilers, skip ahead like 2 or 3 minutes if you don't want to know anything about the movie, if you haven't seen it yet. It came out last Friday. It is available on the HBO Max streaming service. So slight spoilers coming at you. I really, really like that this movie didn't incorporate the traditional tropes of time travel comedy. There's moments of pure aghast awe, but they go quickly. They don't live in that space. It immediately has Herschel translating into the modern day in funny ways instead of being like a fish out of water story. He immediately adapts, and I think that's much more realistic. I think people would have to adapt quickly. It makes for a more interesting story. It makes for more drama, and I think it allows for the actual elements of the story to get to breathe. I think this movie could have felt very rushed. I think this movie could have felt very contrived, but instead we worried about, like, the billboard meant so much because we weren't worried about New York having changed. It didn't go into 9/11, it didn't go into the Holocaust, it didn't go into a lot of things that I think another movie about, a Jewish immigrant from 100 years ago would have. So I really appreciated that. I think that was great they leaned into the hipster aspect. I think it was great they leaned into the beauty of how we've kind of replicated 100-year-ago culture, like the the way we value organic produce and stuff would be so alien to someone like Herschel, and that's a fun blip of the story, but it's not the focus of the story. So basically what I'm saying is I love that this movie went macro and it invested in the actual essence of the emotion of the family of the film instead of going joke, 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 wrote, and it never does that. So I gave this movie a B. I really enjoyed it. A B is a high grade for me. I grade very critically. If you guys follow me on Letterboxd, I've only given out 16 5 stars ever. I only think there are 16 movies that are A+. So a B is a strong grade. I gave it 3.5 stars. Really enjoyed it. It was funny. It was heartfelt. It was what we need more of on VOD, and it was weird, and I love how weird it was. So check out An American Pickle on HBO Max. I don't want to give anything more away. I enjoyed the experience of watching this film. I enjoyed how weird it was. I enjoyed not knowing what the movie's about, even while I was watching it until the very end. So check out An American Pickle, available right now on HBO Max. All right, back to in spoilers if you're watching this in the future. No more spoilers. Okay, back to the news. I want to talk about Mulan getting an official Chinese release because I think that's going to be huge. Mulan getting a release in China, I think, really changes the landscape of what movie making is going to be for the next year. I don't know if they're going to get shut down again. I heard rumor that the bubonic plague was spreading in China, and that was causing another wave of shutdown, so I don't know if that's going to change this Mulan release, but there's been a lot of major American studios leaning into Chinese sensibilities for releases, whether it's editing movies down, whether it's reshaping the narrative, any of those things, because that's such a huge market. So I think China getting Mulan's release and not America is very interesting, because obviously it's a story that would appeal to that market largely, but Americans getting it on VOD and not in theaters, like AMC, even the ones that are open, isn't playing Mulan. So even if they wanted to, there's no theatrical release, whereas China has this market. So if it does very well in China, I could see movies leaning that direction even further. Now, there are plenty of stories that are very important to tell in American audiences, Chinese audiences, all these things, but it'll be really interesting if we have less time travel movies, because I know that's a thing that China doesn't approve of. If we have less movies with certain censorship that, like, you know, what China wants. So I think this Mulan run is going to be very, very interesting as we look back on history. Like, Trolls is now way more important than it was ever going to be because it was the first movie that kind of broke the mold with the VOD theatrical bubble. And now Mulan, playing internationally and not domestically, is another huge line in the sand for what theatrical releases are going to be. So between that and then Tenet finally getting a not New York and LA release and getting the rest of the country where it's safe, it's going to be really interesting. Also, this could all change at a moment's notice. We've moved release dates 100 times. Things have evolved and devolved. I know Georgia's having a really hard time because they decided to open the schools and COVID is spreading like wildfire, so I can easily see theaters shutting down again and release dates getting moved again. You guys know, if you watch this show, I am a giant movie theater advocate. I don't want anything on VOD. I think we've got 100-year movies, so we should watch the movies that we have 100 years of. Unless it was made for VOD, like Palm Springs, like An American Pickle, but sacrificing the movies in theaters for the sake of your entertainment for 2 hours, not worth it. I think movie theaters are going to have a really hard time reopening, and I think this is only the beginning of the fight. I could see this lasting through this time in 2021. I could easily see us not having a 2021 summer release schedule. It's going to be really, really, really hard for us to recover from all this in any sort of time. So time will tell, but this Mulan release, keep an eye on it. I really think, mark my words, when we look back at 2021, Mulan getting a not domestic but international release is going to be very indicative of the way we shape movies for a little while to come. And that is very intriguing. Okay, and comic book TV news. The Boys Season 2 has added an incredible actor, someone I am a huge fan of. He is an OG superhero. He was Iceman. He was on the Animorphs. He is Shawn Ashmore. Shawn Ashmore is not only in The Boys, he is playing Lamplighter. If you guys know The Boys comic, you know how important Lamplighter is. If you don't know The Boys comic, I'm not going to tell you who Lamplighter is, beyond the fact that he's a member of the Seven, because it's a spoiler for the character direction. So the Seven was basically the Avengers, this big Justice League-esque team, and they're the superheroes, they're the gold standard, so they're very important to the lore of The Boys. So having someone from that generation of superhero content as Shawn Ashmore, who is from the generation of the X-Men in the 2000s that really jump-started the movies, is this beautiful meta bit of casting. I can say that I got to speak with Shawn, and that you should keep an eye out on certain websites for an interview coming in September. Can't talk about too much right now, but I did get to talk to Shawn, and I'm really excited. As a giant fan of The Boys, I'm so ready for Shawn Ashmore as Lamplighter. And if you know the comics, you know how exciting it is. If you don't know the comics, highly recommend you read the comics. They are so good, and they're often very different. It's actually, the comics are even darker than the show. So I'm curious where they take Lamplighter, and I'm curious about The Boys Season 2. The Boys Season 2 drops on September 4th, and it is a weekly serialized show. So keep an eye out. I'll obviously tell you guys when you can check out the interview I did with some folks from The Boys. But for now, know that officially, I'm allowed to say it, Shawn Ashmore is Lamplighter in The Boys Season 2, and I could not be more excited. September 4th, Amazon, coming at ya. Very stoked. Okay, over to the world of Marvel. Nia DaCosta is directing Captain Marvel 2. This is exceptional news for a myriad of reasons. One, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II has worked with some of the greats. He's worked with Aaron Sorkin. He's working with Lana Wachowski. He's working with Damon Lindelof. I mean, he worked with Damon Lindelof on Watchmen. He's the guy to know what good directing looks like, and he said that Nia DaCosta was so incredible to work with on Candyman and was singing her praises when we did our episode of Comic Book Shopping. So I already had my eye on this director, and now to have her on Captain Marvel means that someone at Marvel saw Candyman and was like, this is the person we want. Marvel is exceptional at plucking people out from like they're just taken off and then they get skyrocketed into success, and I think that's about to happen to Nia DaCosta. I am very excited for this movie now. Captain Marvel 1 is in my lower half of the Marvel spectrum. I didn't really dig Captain Marvel, the first one, and I think she can solve a lot of the problems I had with the first one. I didn't feel like the movie had a lot of heart. I didn't feel like they used the tropes that well. I like Brie Larson. I didn't like her as Captain Marvel, but I feel like Brie Larson on the red carpet for Captain Marvel was more Captain Marvel in the movie. So I'd really like to see a different director take the helm, and now we have a fantastic one. I'm so very excited. So I think it's going to tie in really beautifully. It also, so actually, I was about to say that, MK Songbird. The writer for WandaVision is handling the Captain Marvel sequels. That is also very exciting. This writer is doing so many different pieces of Marvel now, which means there's going to be this great cohesion, there's going to be this great tone amongst that little pocket of Marvel, and with this director-writer duo, Captain Marvel 2 just moved way up on my list. I was very neutral about a second Captain Marvel because of where the first one landed. I've been much more excited for Black Widow. But now I've got hope, and I'm not a big cosmic guy. So it's cool to have hope because I feel like the Eternals is really going to set me up for us going forward into the cosmic realm with Captain Marvel 2 and all those things. So Nia DaCosta taking over is very exciting. Also, on a just real-world note, it feels really cool to have a black woman directing a movie that isn't just a black cast. Like, it doesn't have to be that. And I said when Joss Whedon signed on for Age of Ultron, I think the victory is going to be when we have black directors and women directors and people that aren't white dudes directing things that aren't just that category. Like when a woman directs Avengers, or a black director directs Avengers, or like, you know, these bigger projects, and it's not just these strange categories we have, then that's going to be such a victory. So I feel like this is a huge win to have a black director handling Captain Marvel. It shouldn't be a win, but it fucking feels like one. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be great. I think she's going to handle it. I'm very in. So hell yeah. And yeah, I think it's a beginning of a shift in the phase 4, 5, and beyond for who we have as directors. So very excited. Okay, over to the world of sticking with Disney. An article came out this week talking about physical media. As you guys know, I'm a giant physical media fiend. I love Blu-rays. I buy Blu-rays. I believe in holding things and having them be tangible. I think that streaming services come and go. I think that rights issues come and go. I think the cloud can collapse at any point. So I try to own my stuff. I have tons of Blu-rays right here. Disney is apparently not doing more physical releases for the foreseeable. They're going to do Pixar, they're going to do Marvel, they're going to do some select things, but it looks like we're not going to get our Fox movies, which when Disney acquired Fox this year, that was a concern. It looks like we're not going to have 4K releases of some movies that are only on Blu-ray. It looks like Disney is really just sticking to Disney Plus. Now that's a mess because a lot of Fox movies aren't going to live on Disney Plus. You're not going to see Fight Club on Disney Plus. You're not going to see Alien on Disney Plus. So I'm really concerned because they own the rights to all this stuff. They have the right to you know, allow stuff out or not. But if this article is true, buy 4K while you can, and if it doesn't exist on 4K, go buy it on Blu-ray because it might not be a thing. So I would recommend anyone, Black Friday's around the corner, it's going to be November before you know it, pick up as many Fox, Disney, everything you can to own the movies that you want, because who knows where you can find them. So it's very, very tricky. It's shitty, to be honest. So buy physical media. That's my best advice, and you never know when you're going to get it back on a streaming service. And, I mean, movies right now, we're having the Harry Potter movies come and go from services. Things are sharing with Peacock and Disney Plus and Netflix, and I'm such an advocate for owning things. So before they're all gone, before they put things back in the vault, do acquire these movies. Check Streamlabs real quick, and then I'm going to go over to recommendations. Okay, I think we got all the Streamlabs, so over to Rex. And that is also in conjunction with the Coycast is audio, but I talked about the George Carlin doc over there, so I want you guys to check that out. I dove into Nia DaCosta, talking about her work with Tessa Thompson. I talked about a bunch of stuff, including the Grant Morrison script. There was a Grant Morrison interview where he talked about the Flash script, and we broke down the Back to the Future references and all that stuff. So if you want to know the other side of the news from earlier in the week, my new podcast, new episode of my podcast drops tomorrow. So I'm trying to split between the video level of Coy Cubed and the audio of Coycast, and that way the news isn't redundant to listeners of both. So if you want to hear what I think about Grant Morrison's Flash script, if you want to hear what I think about the incredible George Carlin getting a 2-part documentary over on HBO, check out, it drops at midnight tonight. Coycast, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts, that's where you can find it. Okay, let's talk about comic books themselves, shall we? I got some recommendations for you guys. Last week, my favorite comic books from the week of August 5th. That's right, August 5th, 2020. Last week, I highly recommend Batman number 96, Coffin Bound number 5, Deadpool number 6. Actually, let me break these down for you guys. We've been going through the show at a good speed. I can break it down a little. Batman 96 is James Tynion IV. It is continuing his Joker war story, where Joker has basically taken over Batman's billions and now has more money than the Bats, and he is running Gotham. It's fascinating. It's a great book. Coffin Bound number 5 is like if Ernest Hemingway and Hunter S. Thompson did acid together and wrote a weird Western with strange dystopian tropes and interesting characters. It's a really weird comic. It's only in issue 5. Check it out from Image. Deadpool number 6. Kelly Thompson has hit her stride with The Merc with the Mouth. I'm really liking where she's going with Deadpool now. This issue is Krakoa based, and it deals with the X-Men, and it's a blast. Check out this new run of Deadpool. Far Sector number 7, one of the most important comics on the shelves. It is a Green Lantern book. It deals with emotion, overseeing governments, police brutality. It deals with a lot of topical shit, and it's about Green Lantern. Highly recommend it. Do check out Far Sector. If you're going to read a Green Lantern book, I'd say this one. Firepower number 1, a new book from Robert Kirkman that I'm really enjoying. It deals with, again, police and an Asian American family that is fantastic. Highly recommend. Firepower is about control and about espionage. I'm trying not to give anything away in these reviews. So check out Firepower. Giant Size X-Men Phantom X. Giant Size X-Men is a one-off, so you only need to read these giant size issues, and this one's about Phantom X, who is a fascinating character. He's a mutant, he's a spy, he's the most James Bondy of the X-Men, and this one shot does not disappoint. The art's great, the writing's fantastic. Highly recommend Giant Size X-Men Phantom X. Also from last week, a digital-only comic, Harley Quinn, Black and White and Red. It is from Shawn Murphy, who, if you are a fan of the White Knight Elseworld amongst his indie stuff, you'll definitely recommend, you'll definitely want to check out this. Sorry, I got a text, I'm using my phone. I definitely recommend you check out Black and White and Red number 6. Black and White and Red is an anthology series, so every issue is standalone. So if you like Harley or Joker or any of that corner of the Batverse, check out this comic and pick up any issue you want. This issue is Shawn Murphy, and it feels like that White Knight universe, and it's fantastic. Sex Criminals number 30. Sex Criminals is one of my favorite indies in years. It is written by Matt Fraction. It is drawn by Chip Zdarsky. It is filled with more visual jokes than almost any comic on the shelves. I actually took a screenshot of the issue this week because there's a shot of the lead the lead woman in the comic book leaning up and looking at her baby, and in the background there's a poster and there's words on it, and I was like, it's gotta be a joke. So I zoomed in on the poster, and it said, this poster is for kids. They can't read. This could say anything, but in that hyper-motivational font. And I was like, I had to zoom in for an Easter egg in a comic book, and I got an actual laugh-out-loud moment. Thank you, Chip Zdarsky, for your funny art. Thank you, Matt Fraction, for your brilliant words. This comic is the second to last issue of the entire series. There is a denouement with issue 31, but this is the climax, pun intended, of the series, and it's very, very good. For a book about boning, there's so much heart and love in this book. Basically, it's about these two people that, when they climax, they can stop time, and they realize that while sleeping with each other, they can both do it, so they start robbing banks. They discover an entire undercurrent of people that have boning powers, and it's fascinating. Check out Sex Criminals. Highly recommend it. Final two recommendations for last week are Strange Adventures #4, my book of the year, my book of the recommendation of the year. Strange Adventures is written by Tom King, drawn by Doc Shaner and Mitch Gerards, and it's about human perception. It's about the fallibility of memory. It's about how our opinion is very, very easily tainted, so we don't actually always know what's going on. And even superheroes have that problem. So it's people investigating a war crime from Adam Strange, whether or not he actually did war crimes. It's fascinating. It's such a good book. Lastly, Young Justice #17, a very dense book. It's about 40 members of a cast all happening at once. So if you like Bendis, if you like quippy dialogue, if you like a lot coming at you at once, I recommend Young Justice. All right, let's do this week's comics, then we'll get into streaming recommendations. This week, I'm just going to read through them real fast. The comics I recommend you pick up tomorrow, the 12th of August. Tomorrow's books at your local comic store. I recommend Adventure Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 46, Batman's Grave 9, Captain Marvel 19, Dark Knight's Death Metal 3, Detective Comics number 1025, Empire 5, Excellent 9, Firepower 2, Ghost Spider number 9, now in print, Green Lantern Season 2, number 6, Hawkeye Freefall number 5, now in print, not just digital, Immortal Hulk 36, Marauders 11, Revenge of the Cosmic Ghost Rider 5, Something is Killing the Children number 9, Superman 24, Venom 27, Wonder Woman 760, new creative team, great jumping on point. You only have to pick up last week's issue. 759, brand new, it might as well be a number 1, now 760, and X-Force number 11. Those are the books that I'm most looking forward to this week, tomorrow. Lots and lots of comics. All those DC ones are available today because they're weird and they do Tuesdays now, but those comics right now. Okay, I'm currently reading the Ultimate Universe all the way through. I'm reading from the chronological order, so I just read Origins and Ultimate Elektra. I'm reading Ultimate Daredevil and Elektra next. It's a fun journey. I'm also trying to expand my mind a bit. I talk about politics a decent amount. I'm trying not to make all of my shows about politics, but I feel like one of the big problems in politics is that we've decided that we will not look at the other side of the aisle. We will just be angry and yell and not listen to other opinions. So I lean fairly left, and I'm fairly public about that. But I want to understand where the right is coming from, and I want to understand what people are yelling. So I'm fascinated by clinical psychology, and I'm fascinated by leaders. So one of the boogeymen of the left / somehow fixture of the right is Jordan Peterson. So I'm trying Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules of Life. I think that's what it's called. It's 12 Rules of something. I'm trying to read Jordan Peterson's book, and I'm really enjoying most of it. I'm only a couple chapters in. There's some moments that are a little like, you know, like your older uncle or grandpa when they say something like accidentally misogynistic. There's a couple moments of that, and there's some things that I don't agree with, but overall it's not as hate-filled as some of the people that follow him. And a lot of what he has to say, like the actual psychology of certain things, is really fascinating. So I'm enjoying trying to understand people's perspective outside of my own, and I think Jordan Peterson's is a great place to start. I'm enjoying the book. So I'm trying to read one book a month in addition to all 100+ comics I read, in addition to all the shows and movies I watch. But I'm trying to read one bit of psychology or chemistry or something nonfiction to just kind of stay in tune with the world. So I'm checking that out personally, and I don't want people to get mad at me for saying Jordan Peterson in a positive light, because I know he represents a lot of things that people disagree with, but I'm reading him to understand. So I just got a Streamlabs. Want to shout out Jesus Gastelum has this to say. Man, I've been enjoying this new Batman Beyond arc, and Lost Soldiers was excellent. Batman 96, Amazing Spider-Man Sin Eater, very excellent. Gonna go to my shop tomorrow. Can't wait to get my new books. Also got a new job, maybe. Hey, congratulations to Jesus on the new job, maybe. Jesus, congratulations, man. That is awesome. And you are reading excellent comic books. I'm loving what they're doing at Sin Eater. Amazing Spider-Man right now. It's written by Nick Spencer. It's been a lot of Ryan Ottley art, occasional sub-ins for art. And then Mark Bagley is doing this current arc, and Sin Eater is this incredibly dark character. He's from the 70s, and he's one of those like Kraven's Last Hunt-esque takes you go into with Spider-Man, and this arc is just as dark as it was in the 70s. I love that they're letting Spider-Man go there. I love what Nick Spencer's doing by bringing back characters from 50 years ago and making them just as relevant today. So if you haven't read Spider-Man in a while, I highly recommend the Sin Eater one-shot, and then the newest 2 issues of Spider-Man. The Sin Eater stuff has been spectacular, and great arc by Mark Bagley. Really digging it. Jesus, again, congratulations. Keep reading great books, and congrats on the job. That is fantastic. All right, over to the world of streaming recommendations. On Netflix, I do this week to week. So at the beginning of the month, there's going to be more recommendations because the new streaming services pick up lots of stuff that month. And then each and every week, I go through all the services and I recommend movies I enjoy or things I want to see coming to the streaming services. So breaking it down from each service. On Netflix, on August 14th, that's this Friday, there is a new Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Jamie Foxx superhero movie. Basically, it looks like Limitless meets X-Men. You take a pill and you get superpowers, and you don't know what they're going to be. So you just see what happens, and the power of that, the control of that world is what this movie seems to be based in. It's called Project Power. Jamie Foxx, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Netflix original movie. Again, it's great to see Joseph Gordon-Levitt back. He was in 7500 from Amazon recently, and now he is back in a Netflix original movie. I'm really excited to see Joe back. And I'm really excited for this one. It's a superhero movie with 2 actors that are absolutely incredible. So Netflix, thank you for making rad, weird, original content. That is on the 14th. Over in still Netflix, on the 16th, Netflix is getting Les Mis. I unironically and ironically enjoy the hell out of Les Mis. It is filled with insane close-ups, giant production, incredible singing, powerful acting, but it's also so fucking weird. So if you're a fan of the play or of, weird cinema, I recommend Les Mis. It's also very fun to drink to. It's one of my drinking movies, so I recommend you check out Les Mis. It's a good time. It's a weird time. Over on Hulu, there's nothing new this week for me. There's a lot of great stuff on Hulu, but this week, this second week of August, nothing new coming at us. And then on Amazon, I'm very excited. Yesterday, I haven't watched it yet, but yesterday they got Capone. Tom Hardy playing Al Capone, directed by Josh Trank. Josh Trank's first thing post Fantastic Four. Chronicle, Fantastic Four, now Capone. Apparently it's the exact cut he wanted. They let him play at the budget he wanted, and Tom Hardy looks insane in this movie. So I'm very excited for Capone coming on yesterday. That's how English works. As of yesterday, on Amazon, we got Capone. Over on Disney Plus, on Friday, they're getting Ant-Man and the Wasp, the sequel that I think is actually better than the original. I really enjoyed Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think the villain's better. I think there's less continuity issues. I think there's less plot holes. I liked Ant-Man and the Wasp quite a bit. And then The Greatest Showman, which is just a blast. It's one of those classic feeling movies that's just so much fun to enjoy. Hugh Jackman, Zendaya, Zac Efron. It's a blast. It's just one of those like Disney movies, like just feels good. So highly recommend The Greatest Showman if you missed it in theaters. And then finally on HBO Max, we've got Birds of Prey dropping on the 15th. That's Saturday, I do believe. Birds of Prey, I really enjoyed. It made my top 5 of the DC EU films. The ensemble's solid. The writing's a blast. The villain is amongst my favorite villains of all time, and I really think, not of all time, of all comic book movies. One of my favorite comic book movies villains ever. I love Ewan McGregor just getting to have a blast. The movie's fun. I really dug it. I also think it's one of the best portrayals of Gotham in a new light in a long time. So if you skipped Birds of Prey, now's the time. It's on HBO Max. And finally, Lovecraft Country starts on Sunday. Lovecraft Country looks like an insane sci-fi horror thriller journey with an incredible cast, and it's got my guy Sterling K. Brown in it. I'm a huge Sterling K. Brown fan, so you put horror, sci-fi, thriller, Sterling K. Brown together, you know I'm going to be right there. So I'm very excited for a lot of the stuff coming to streaming this very week. I'm going to check the Streamlabs right quick, make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh man, I said your name right once, and now I'm nervous to say it wrong. Teshka? I think that's how you say your name. I apologize if I got it wrong, because I know I was proud of getting it right. I don't think JGL and Jamie Foxx have ever done a movie together, to my knowledge. They're both some of my faves, so I think I remember that, but I'm not 100% sure. All right, I'm gonna quickly check the live chat and make sure I'm not missing anything. All right. Yeah, I agree. It's a real bummer about all of the 4K versus Blu-ray stuff that's going on. That really does suck. Thunder God said Black Friday is pretty much canceled this year. Well, can't really go to stores. So I mean, like digitally, they're gonna have a Black Friday. It's kind of like Amazon always has Black Friday. It's really like the weekend now. It goes into Cyber Monday, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday are all deals. So that weekend, I would stock up on physical media because it seems like the end of an era. I would have liked to own New Mutants as well. Manny, having not seen it, I'm still very excited to own it. And then we are back to MK Songbird talking about the writer. Absolutely. My mom is in the chat, and she is saying that really impressed with the safety measures AMC has put into place. If you guys don't know, my mom is, she works at AMC in Atlanta, and she seems safe, and that makes me happy because I always worry for my mom. I've been worried about movie theaters reopening. She seems comfortable. She's wearing a mask constantly. They're wearing masks constantly. I'm really hopeful that this all goes really well. But yeah, she's comfy, so I'm comfy for now. I'm keeping an eye on them, but right now I'm comfy. What up, Michael McCarson in the chat? Michael, I'm 2 episodes into Death Note. I'm going to be watching a bunch tonight and then probably reviewing it this Wednesday? Today's Tuesday? Yeah. So Death Note is all systems go. I am 2 episodes in, and I'm not going to tell you what I think, except that I like it vaguely, so the review has weight. Okay. Chad, I missed Kevin Smith's SDCC panel, but I planned to watch it, and then I heard that the whole SDCC was kind of, so I haven't gotten to it yet because I've been way too busy. All right, I think I got the gist of everything. They are reopening to the public on August 20th, my mom has to say, the AMC over there. Vanko, what up? Vanko, yes, I talked about her directing about halfway into the episode, so check out about 20 minutes in for me talking about Nia DaCosta. I'm always trying to get this show in under an hour, and I think we just did it in 45 minutes. There was a decent amount of news, but I wanted to make sure. I'm trying to get the show under an hour because YouTube hates shows over an hour. It's like, we don't want long-form content. The internet likes bite-sized stuff, and then Quibi failed, so maybe they're wrong. But I wanted to keep the show under an hour to see how we did. Remember to check out Coycast for the other news bits that I didn't get to here. Remember to check out this weekend, MainFrame Comic Con. MainFrame Comic Con is Saturday and Sunday. I'm doing 5 panels. Starts at 9 a.m. West, noon East, kicking it off with Tom King. Very, very excited. Vanko! Vanko said, I hope you're doing well, Coy. Much love to you and Mama Jandreau in the Streamlabs. Thank you very much, Vanko. Always a pleasure. I appreciate you. And Mom, Vanko sends his best. So yeah, this weekend is MainFrame Comic Con. I'm very excited for it. Tom King, Jock, Mark Waid, Tom Taylor, just an insane weekend. And then also, the singles tournament for the Schmodown's about to kick off. We are also about to go into the insanity of Shazam, playing the final exam on Friday. And then the Kevin Smith versus Chris Jericho match is the 7th? I believe it's the 27th. It's either the 27th or 28th. Might be the 28th. Don't quote me. One of those 2 days. I have it written down. My own Kevin Smith of the Quirky Marks. Kevin Smith is playing the mighty Chris Jericho later in the month. I'm very excited for that match. I mean, it's Kevin Smith. Talked to him yesterday. We got some schemes. Everything's going to be rad. I'm very excited. And then in a final bit of news, if you guys enjoy the boxing madness I've been doing on my Instagram, it is this thing called Quiet Punch. I teamed up with the folks over at Quiet Punch. So if you want a Quiet Punch, which comes with gloves, which comes with a sensor that actually counts your punches, would come with hours and hours of training, it actually teaches you how to box as well as the bag itself, you can get 10% off using the code COYJ10. That's Coy, C-O-Y, J, letter J, 10. COYJ10 gets you 10% off to learn how to box. And it can go in any door frame. So it hasn't messed up my new door frame. I just moved and I've been precious with it. Coy-J10 gets you a Quiet Punch. It's really rad. Check out quietpunch.com. Use that code. And final plug, Tavour. Tavour is beer, so that means that boxing and beer, 2 of my favorite things, are teaming up with me this month. And Tavour has a great deal where if you spend $25 and use the code COY10, just COY10, no J, COY10, you get $10 off on craft beer. This is craft beer from all over the country. Literally, like, all of the country makes their own little pockets of beer. This company gathers it together and ships it nationwide, and you, using code COY10, get $10 off after $25 on whether you like IPAs or stouts or reds or blondes or whatever kind of beer you like. They've got that, and you can get a discount. And it's real beer. It's not Coors. It's not water. It's not gas station beer. It's real ass beer, and it's delicious. I'm doing another episode of Comic Books and Craft Beer on Friday. It was supposed to be last Sunday, but I'm having Jenny Newman back on. The great Jenny Newman is joining me once again. We're going to be discussing all 5 volumes of Y the Last Man. Yes, top to bottom, Y the Last Man, all of it, me and Jenny Newman drinking beer, talking Why the Last Man, should be this Friday. Our schedules keep conflicting, but it should be this Friday. I am so very excited. I think it's going to kick off at like 6:30 or 7. I will tweet out a link and I'll let you guys know. But the next time you'll see me is doing a review for Death Note this week. Maybe making time to do a review for Candy for AJ Lancaster. Candy is an incredible Heath Ledger, Jeffrey Rush film. And then Friday, we're talking all sorts of Why the Last Man. And in between that, I'm doing lots of Schmodown stuff. Got my podcast coming out tomorrow. Lots and lots of stuff coming at you. I'm very excited. And if you guys aren't patrons, there's a lot of stuff over on Patreon that is exclusive, separate of all this, including comic ratings, a patron-only podcast, a system of rating all the movies and TV shows I watch every week, an exclusive Discord, and the opportunity to tell me what you want me to review as well, which is why I'm doing Death Note and Candy this month. All right, I think that's everything. That was a whole, I never have time for an end spiel. I always try to get out of here. You guys are amazing. I want to thank everyone for plugging the Schmodown matches in there. I very much appreciate that. I'm going to check the Streamlabs one final time, make sure I didn't miss anybody. Check the live chat. Teshka Productions is putting in the work, making sure that there are all of the dates and announcements. That is fantastic. And we did this in an hour. All right, so much love to you guys. I will see you on Friday for comic books, craft beer, Why the Last Man, and Jenny Newman. I will see you next week for another episode of Koi Cubed. You will hear me tomorrow for Koi Cast, and in the meantime, Schmodown, reviews, Patreon, all the stuff. All right, so much love, y'all. I will see you next week. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here, and thank you, as always, to Comic Books for existing. Bye, guys.